We have a great show for you today. Uh, Already March, super hard to believe. That gorgeous picture there, we're going to show you how to do that at home. We're going to do some container planting. We are going to go through and tell you about earwigs. There are good things about earwigs. And we are going to tell you about row covers. That's a question that we get a lot is, where do you get row covers? What kind of row covers do you use? Why do you use them? And then we're going to go to master food preservers, and you're going to learn how to use all these veggies that you're ending up with now at the end of your cool season, and some of those carrots to make some yummy pickles. So pickles with not cucumber pickles. Okay, so just to let you know, your audio and your video will be off for this webinar. And we'd like you to use the Q&A box for questions, not the chat box, Q&A. And this Zoom talk is being recorded. And notice that wonderful full watering can. Sadly, we hopefully will get more rain here soon. We want to remind you that, we are in a drought, absolutely 100%. And we have lots of resources for you, so do not worry. You can go into the food gardening tab on our website, Sonoma County Master Gardeners. My name is Toby Brown, by the way, I didn't say that. There's a drop-down menu, and you're gonna click on food gardening with less water on the drop-down menu. And this is what it looks like. And the arrow is pointing right to where you should be going. Great resources, things you might not have thought about already. And another thing I wanted to tell you before we start, and I usually say this is March 2022. All of the information we give you is science-based information that has been researched. The date is definitely important. So if you're looking at this after the fact, because they are all put on YouTube, just, keep that in mind. We're giving you the best information we have right now. And we do continually research and update everything. All right, so we are master gardeners, and we do go through and practice sustainable gardening. So right now, this time of year, you want to be planting the right plant in the right place at the right time. If you're planting tomatoes and peppers right now, those aren't the right plants right now. We would wait. Otherwise, you're going to have to be doing backflips. So you want to make sure you're planting the things that can withstand a little bit of frost right now, because we still may get that up until mid-April or so, at least in Santa Rosa. We nurture and protect the soil, so we're not digging in. We are laying compost on the top and making sure that we're not overplanting. We mulch to save water and prevent weeds. Please, please, please mulch. That will definitely help you save water. We don't use synthetic fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides. You really don't need to do that. We're practicing minimum soil disturbance, as I said. We'll use flowers that benefit plants and beneficial insects. And Bryce and Nancy are going to talk about a lot of this too. This is a great show. We're going to use compost and organic amendments. We are going to go to Bryce Sumner and Nancy Kreveling, and they're both Sonoma County Master Gardeners. And they are going to show you today how to do some container planting. So for those of you who have a small space, or if you've just like a beautiful little food garden right on your deck, this is a great way to do it. So Bryce and Nancy, take it away.
Okay,
right.
Thank you, Toby. Yes, we are going to talk today about growing an edible food garden in a container. And I think it's important to know too that no matter what size your property is, this could be something you might like to do, because sometimes it's nice to have something closer to the house with a little go out there and pick your greens for a salad, even if you have acres beyond it. So listen up, anybody. We are going to talk about a container, but we are planting very much sustainably, which means that we are going to mix herbs and flowers in with our veggies. And we are using no fertilizers, no artificial fertilizers, and no pesticides. We also hope that you will be impressed, maybe even surprised, with how much you can harvest from a small space. And also to take a look at the baskets here, or the barrel that you saw in the introduction. They become very lovely little art pieces in your garden. So we will today take you, we hopefully, step by step through what we did to prepare the barrels and plant. And so Nancy will talk a little bit now more about the containers.
Yeah, so choosing a container is one of the key points of this. Each container has its own strengths and weaknesses. We particularly like wine barrels, and you'll see a wine barrel later. And one of the reasons is it holds so much soil, you can grow practically anything in it. And the wood helps insulate the soil so it doesn't get too hot or too cold. It doesn't lose the water too fast. So you can have wine barrels, you can have redwood planters. If you want to choose plastic planters, I've done that a lot too. It holds the water a lot better. You need to be careful that you don't overwater and that it drains appropriately. Plastic is a lot lighter than a wine barrel. Half a wine barrel is pretty heavy on its own. And when you add 2 huge bags of potting mix to it, basically that's where it's going to stay unless you've got it on casters or you have a convenient way to move it. So if you're using a wine barrel, put it where you want it before you fill it. Otherwise, it may not be where you want to have it. You can also use smaller containers, especially for herbs, parsley, lettuces. I have a little earth box that you'll see in a bit that's got romaine lettuce in it. It has casters on it, so it's pretty easy to move around. One of the benefits of that is that you can track the sun. So you can also use terracotta. That does tend to dry out really fast. And you can also use ceramic or glazed terracotta, which don't dry out quite as fast, but they also can be pretty heavy. So one of the things that, besides the container, the other primary thing is that your plants will need sun. And at this time of the year, our cool season veggies, such as the lettuces and kales and these beautiful violas, need about 3 to 4 hours of sun every day. So you want to have your plants, your containers in an area that's going to get 3 to 4 hours worth of sun. The handy thing about containers is you can move them so that they follow the sun if you've got that kind of time. And also, as the sun shifts from south to north, you can move your containers around to either protect them from too much sun or to give them more sun as they need it. So I love container gardening, particularly for veggies. I've done it for years and it's been really handy. I've done it in apartments where I couldn't grow much because all I had was a little balcony. It's also really handy if you go on vacation and you can take your containers to your friends and they babysit them for you while you're gone. So there's a lot of benefits to containers. Oh yeah, it also helps with pest control because you tend not to get snails in containers. You can also use copper tape, which helps control the snail population if you have that in your yard. You don't get gophers because they're not going to dig up through the bottom of your container. So and I've used bird netting to keep the squirrels out of my containers. And you're going to learn more about row cover, which can be used to keep out insects and also to help control the amount of sun that's going through, reaching your plants on a really hot day. So I think that's it for location. Did I forget anything?
Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the actual prep of our barrel and of the baskets. Everybody knows drainage is the key. You know, without good drainage, you're in trouble. So what we did with the wine barrel is, hope you can see this. We took, oh yeah, the wrong camera. We took a drill and we drilled 5 holes in the bottom of the wine barrel and about the size of a quarter, 25-cent piece. And that seemed to do a really good job. And then we wanted to keep the soil that's coming in the barrel. So we've used a couple of things. One is this, which is a metal kind of screen that worked really well, but you have to, it's a little more trouble to cut it. So Nancy had a great idea, and that is taking old window screen, and it's very easy to cut it, to put it down. And sometimes when I used this, I had to staple it down. And with the screen, seems like the weight of the soil that you add is good enough. Yeah. And with the baskets, what I did was we made these baskets, as I might have said earlier, because we can't really manage a whole wine barrel from place to place. So we have these baskets, and I just lined them with black plastic. And then I took an ice pick and just, you know, went tuck, 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 and probably 9 or 10 holes. Yeah. Then if you are concerned about your any kind of residue from what you had used your barrel before, and most of what we use are secondhand. So this is just a spray bottle with plain old apple cider vinegar. And so if you just give it a spray all the way around, and then you can just leave it for about a half an hour, and then you've got a nice clean container for what you're going to be putting in it. Also, I wanted to say something about sometimes it's a good idea to be able to give a little bit of airspace between where you set your barrel or your baskets. So you can put blocks of wood under them, or bricks, or something like that. And with the baskets, I've actually been able to use these 3 times without the bottom rotting. And I realized that I never set them on the soil. I have a little rack here that I set them on, or I have benches at home that have slats. So I could put it on the slats, or I have a table, a round wrought iron table with little squiggly holes, and I could put it on that. And I think that these were amazingly durable. So.
All right. So soil is critically important. You want to use potting soil that your favorite soil place or at your nursery. We prefer to use organic, just because we know what's in it, and we're not, especially when we're growing food, we want to be very careful that there's nothing that could contaminate our food, and we want to grow organic food where possible. So this particular soil is potting soil. It is organic. You can look at the bag when you buy your potting soil, and it'll tell you if it's certified organic or not. You'll see this is really light and crumbly, and it drains really well. It's totally different than the soil in your garden, in your yard, which I know in my yard is like hard pan clay. And it's nice and loose so that the roots from the plant have no problem reaching out, getting the nutrients that they need, and being able to grow very healthfully. When you buy the soil, it'll also tell you what the nutrients are on the bag. This also drains well, but it still holds water enough for your plants. It's not too sandy, and it's definitely not clay. Our barrels that we do are filled with organic soil, and We also top it off with compost, and then the compost is what is going to continue to feed the soil, and that feeds your plants. So, and now Bryce will talk about, oh, and in filling our barrels, we alternate soil and some water, soil, water, soil, water, about 3 layers for something this size, maybe 4 layers for the wine barrel. That way we're ensuring that the soil is moist all the way through, and we don't want to make it soaking wet, but you want to be able to feel the dampness in it and be able to tamp it down in between the layers to get out any large air pockets. Okay.
So what to plant? We are now ready. We got this little miniature wine barrel just to make this a little easier to handle. So what to plant? That's the fun part, really. And since these were my baskets, I planted the baskets, and so I got to choose what's in them, which I'll go over with you in just a minute. These are the things I like. We have a little saying that says, right place, first of all, right plant, right place, and right time. So the fact that all of the root zone for all of these plants, there's plenty of room, of course, in the wine barrel that's 16 inches high, but these little baskets are 6 inches high, and they've done quite well with packed with things. Also, what we have planted in here are organic starts, cool season. And I think most people know what cool season are, but this is a handy little document with other uses as well. This is put together by Sonoma County Master Gardeners with, it's called our year-round planting calendar. And it gives, as well as what's cool season, what's warm season. It also tells you if it's better to plant seeds directly into your garden for that plant, or is it better to use starts? And of course, for these container gardens, it's nicer to have starts because you can control the design a little bit better and what's going to be harvesting when. And my little gem that I love this so much is laminated, and it's on a green ribbon. So I do not lose this or it doesn't fall apart. But you will see at the end on our resources page the website to go to, and you can have one of your own. So what to plant? One of the things that is really important for us and for sustainability is biodiversity. As a lot of you know, when you see commercial agriculture, you see huge swaths of the same crop. And what that is doing is, it's like putting a sign out there that says to the pests, come and get me, I'm just right here for you. And you're continually diminishing the soil of that same nutrient over and over and over. So what we can do as home gardeners, and what some of commercial agriculture is doing now, is bringing in herbs and flowers. And Toby mentioned that with the sustainability too. The flowers, in this case, we have little violas that are so actually kind of tasty, and the petals are beautiful in a salad, and they draw pollinators, as little as they are, and so does the alyssum. So we have these two flowers, alyssum and violas. The biodiversity of the flowers will bring pollinators and other beneficial insects. And the herbs, some of them have a little bit of an aroma, and that can confuse the pests. They may come in for what they think they want, but then they have these other things and they could be confused. So both of these things are really crucial to keeping the soil healthy. And in these two baskets, we have pak choi, 2 kinds of lettuce, 2 kinds of kale, red Russian and dwarf Siberian, and we have some spicy greens. And then the herbs we have in this one are parsley, and marjoram. The flowers, as I mentioned, are the violas and the alyssum. And these Johnny jump ups, these little violas, are also beautiful around the edge of a cake. But I can't say enough about biodiversity. That's what's going to save our planet. And even if you aren't planting in a container, you can plant flowers and herbs close by in any kind of a bed. We have this little baby wine barrel. I can't fit everything in here, obviously, but thyme is a fabulous herb for a wine barrel or any container. And a couple of things to watch as I'm planting. I don't know if you can see. We like to put the soil right up an inch from the top, because then it sinks seems like no matter what you do. So in planting the thyme, it's important to plant it exactly at the same level as you got it out of in this case, a 4-inch pot. And next I'm going to put some very attractive purple lettuce. And one of the things to notice, you see that a little bit in the baskets, is to plant, for design sake, to plant contrasting colors together, because that makes for beauty. You notice them more. And also notice how close I'm planting these things. You wouldn't do this in most cases, but this soil is so rich that you can do that. And in very short order, a few weeks, you don't see any more soil and no weeds. So I'm going to plant next. This is a beautiful little lettuce. I call it Feckle Lettuce, but it's a kind of a little gem lettuce. So what I'm going to do is alternate these lettuces. Another purple one. And a nice thing you can do with this kind of thing, even with kale, is do what's called cut and come again. So very shortly after you plant these, maybe a couple of weeks, you can start taking the baby leaves off around the edges and putting those. You can make a little salad with the petals from the flowers and the smaller baby leaves and the little bit of the herbs. Now comes a viola. Now, if you have a plant like this that is root bound, you have to take some time to be sure that okay. The big takeaway here is, I would say, biodiversity. We in our home gardens can make a lot of difference by using flowers and herbs and veggies all together. Thank you.
And I know a lot of you were saying, wait a second. I didn't get to see that plant list. So here we go. And Nancy, would you like to talk through this, or would you like me to talk through it?
It doesn't really matter. It's pretty much reinforces what Bryce was saying about biodiversity. So,
Okay.
and these are appropriate plants for the size of the basket or the pot.
Right, plenty of root room.
Perfect. And I do want to say that, you know, this presentation was developed for Kendall Jackson for their wine club. And we would go out, and Bryce herself went through and put these all together. And we did various themes on the planting in the barrels. And there's so much you can do with this, just amazing. So Okay, so now now we're going to talk about earwigs, and earwigs are something that that there are good points. I've heard this presentation, so keep your mind open, and Jude will take it away.
All right. Well, okay, so we're going to have a quick overview of earwigs, and most of you know already what earwigs look like. They're about 5/8 inches long. They have a flat reddish brown body. They have very short wings, which they can use, by the way. So if you see a flying earwig, don't be too distressed. And they have strong pinchers on the tip of the abdomen. In the males, the pinchers are stout and strongly curved. In the females, like in the photograph, the pinchers are slender and straight. Next slide, please. They're nocturnal, so they feed at night. They love moisture and shade. They can be active all year in Sonoma County. They're quick runners. They are capable of flight, but they do so rarely. And they're omnivores. They will eat anything. And this can be both a blessing and a curse for gardeners. Next slide. In terms of blessings, they feed on soft-bodied insects like aphids and grubs, and they feed on detritus, even dead and dying insects. They feed on insect eggs, including insects that you might want, like insects that you might want, but they do feed on insect eggs, so that can be helpful. Generally, earwigs, despite their reputation, are not as big a threat as other pests. They can do damage because they also feed on corn silk and they prevent pollination of corn. So if you see earwigs anywhere near sweet corn that you're trying to grow, I would suggest dispensing with them. They can also damage seedlings and soft fruit. And if you've been anywhere near a ripening or ripened strawberry, you can see that, that earwigs can do a tremendous amount of damage. In leaves, they can leave holes and jagged edges, which are similar to slug and snail damage, but there's no slime trail. So again, next slide, please. If you want or need to manage earwigs, first consider how much damage is tolerable. If they're helping with destroying aphids and things that you don't want in your garden, a handful of earwigs might not be a crisis. But if you find more than that, or determine that you don't want them around at all, then use a management strategy. Next slide. One of the best management strategies is sanitation, to check mulch as hiding places, to clean up debris, and to reduce surface moisture. Another management strategy is to trap them. Take rolled up newspaper, moisten it, and place it on the soil near plants. You can also do this with moistened boards or with moistened burlap bags. Place that on or near the soil, on the soil near the plants that you want protected, and just before dark, and shake out the accumulated earwigs into a pail of soapy water the next morning. You can also use diatomaceous earth. It's effective, but it has to be reapplied after watering. And birds and toads are natural predators, so you might want to encourage their being around as well. Next slide. In terms of vegetable gardening or any kind of gardening, earwigs are a judgment call. A few of them might be beneficial, but if you find that you have an infestation, you really want to intervene before you get infested. and intervene ruthlessly. So that's it for earwigs. Good luck.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jude. There are good things about earwigs. We'll make sure that we think about those things too. So one thing I want to add before Kitty gets into row covers is please put your questions in the Q&A. Don't use the chat. That's where we look for when we're answering the question. So thank you very much. And so now we have Kitty Ritz that's going to do some tool talk on row covers.
Hello. So row covers can extend your growing season. You can have frost protection, and by protecting crops from low temperatures while letting rain and sunlight in, the heavier the material, the less sunlight will pass through. So this is often called a frost blanket, and it can add 2 to 7 degrees Fahrenheit to the temperature underneath the row cover, which is something you have to be aware of. Once you put the row cover on, you always have to check underneath that you're not roasting your plants. You can also provide early yields. So our right plant, right place, right time. This will help you warm the air and soil to aid in seed germination and root development, shoot development, and perhaps get an earlier crop. Also, lately it's been extremely windy, and row covers can provide some wind protection to small plants and to reduce the evaporation. So this means less stress on the plant and less desiccation. That's just a fancy word for drying out. And that type of row cover is usually placed on wire or PVC hoops. So row covers can exclude birds and insects. Lightweight row covers can provide protection from insects, especially in spring. And we all know that vegetables are more attractive with less insect damage, and also that insects are vectors for disease. So this allows you to avoid using pesticides. And this row cover is often called floating. So that just means you lay the row cover fabric right over the bed. You don't even have to hold it up, and you bury the edges to keep bugs out. Remember that when we say exclude insects, there is no little meter on the row cover that's going to say good bug, bad bug. So you have to be aware that the pollinators needed for some crops will also be excluded, and you have to provide for that. So that means tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, those kinds of things. Next. So here's a picture of a PVC hoop structure, and this is helpful for a taller crop. So I've got broccoli and hello? Broccoli and bigger crops under a hoop like this right now. This is just 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch PVC tubing, 10 feet to 12 feet tall. If you want, you can have shorter lengths and attach them together with tubing. The more hoops along the bed, the more support. So I have inserted these tubes into pipes because they were around. You can put tubes inside the bed. You can use metal clamps to attach them to the outside of the bed, whatever's convenient for you. And if you want to have a runner across the top, you can. You can use tubing for that and lash it, or you can use a stretchy clothesline, almost anything that you have. And then with these tubes, you're going to attach the cover with clips. Now, this is a picture of wire supports, and they're just bent wires inserted directly into the bed, about a 9-gauge wire will do. Some people use what's seen here, which is called a mortar ladder, which you can get at some kind of home do-it-yourself store. Here, you can attach the row covers with clothespins or with clips. And this keeps the cover from rubbing or weighing down on the crops. And you can use just part of a bed and cover that and use the rest of the bed in another way. Next. So I call these the Sue Lovelace tents. And all they are folding food tents that you can get online, and they're very useful for covering new transplants. They're just a little pop-up tent that has fine gauge mesh. They're easy to store, they're pretty cheap. They won't last more than 3 or 4 years, but stake them down or weigh down the edges because they will blow away. Now, the types of row covers that are available to you, the green in the back is shade cloth. This is more important later in the year. The lightest, finest fabric there is called tulle. And if you've made a tutu for a grandchild recently, you may know that you can get this at the fabric store pretty cheap. The next cover is called Summer Weight, and that is a finer mesh, but larger than the tulle. And finally, you have a middle weight, all purpose, and that is for general usage. And that white PVC pipe object is a snap clip that you can buy, and it is just to clip the fabric onto PVC pipe. Comes in 1/2 inch and 3/4 size. So here's a photograph of the light allowed in through mid-weight general purpose row cover. It has good light penetration. It keeps moisture in, and it has pest protection. The density of the cover affects the light and the temperature inside. So this is frost cover, and it is very thick compared to the mid-weight, and it keeps in heat, but it also reduces light. So especially if you have frost cover on and then it gets to be 75, 80 degrees outside, you need to check the temperature underneath the row cover, because once you hit 85 or 90 degrees, you could experience damage. Next. And this is the finest mesh. It is called micro mesh, and it lets in a great amount of light, as you can see, and it keeps out the smallest insects. So if you have cabbage moth, or you have carrot fly, or you have anything that is leaf miners, aphids, they can be excluded with this kind of micro mesh more easily than other things. Always remember, you got to close up the ends of the row cover as well. My cat likes to get inside the row cover if I forget to do that. You'll also need to remember that row cover needs to be cleaned every so often and folded and put away for storage. And that's that.
Let me get my, okay, thank you, Kitty. That was awesome. Though we get lots of questions about row covers. So Kitty will be here to answer any questions that you have about that, but that was excellent. Thank you. Now we're going to talk with Master Food Preservers, and they're going to do a little demonstration for you. So the Master Food Preservers, no, I didn't want that. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. 1 second. The Master Food Preservers we are a group of folks that love canning and preserving food. We teach you how to go through and there we go. Okay, we were really close. And preserve your food so that we can use up everything that we can, because we know that, you know, we're using our water to grow this. So that's okay. Okay, so we're sharing. We can see that. So let's just that's okay. Let's do this piece at the end. Let's go ahead and we'll have our master food preservers go right in, and they'll do our demonstration. It's okay.
Okay, are we on?
You are on.
All right. Okay, good morning, everyone. Kathleen and I are here today to show you a couple recipes of refrigerator pickles that are seasonal right now. And first off, we'll do a little bit of safety measures. We start with a clean, sanitized work area and clean jars and clean utensils. And then we pull back our hair and put on our aprons, and we assemble all our ingredients ahead of time and our supplies. So we're not running here and there, cross-contaminating the area. The acid in the brine we use is 5%. And so if you're using vinegar or bottled lemon juice, you still want it to be 5%. And it will say so on the label. We'll be using the vinegar today. Okay, so the brine ingredients in recipes cannot be varied, okay? But in the ingredients and the flavorings, that's what you can vary. Brine ingredients are set by the recipe. Any pickled product is as good as its ingredients. So use fresh, well-cleaned vegetables, and you will be very glad with the taste. These pickles are made in small batches, which makes it great for coming in from the garden with a small amount of produce and pickling them. And then when you go to eat them, say on one of Bryce and Nancy's lettuce leaves, you know, they taste just as fresh as when you picked them. Most recipes last up to 3 months in the fridge, so that's really a bonus. I wanted to show you some examples of ones that we've done. These are carrots that we'll be doing today. And this is cauliflower, both seasonal vegetables. And this is like a mixture, a spicy mixture from a different recipe with onions and carrots, but it could be, you know, whatever you have or whatever you like. So let's get started. I'm going to start with pickled carrots. And I want to tell you that I went to the farmer's market in Sebastopol yesterday and got some really fresh little carrots. And then I have all the tops here, and we'll make pesto from these greens. So save your greens. And the cuttings from the carrots can be put in a bag and saved for soups and broths. So as little waste as possible is what we're going for. Okay, so I'm starting with crunchy mixed refrigerator pickles. And like I said, I decided not to mix them. I'm going to do just carrots, but you could put others in here. So the recipe calls for 4 cups of carrots, however you want it. I julienne sliced the carrots with my mandolin, and I have them in this bowl. And then I made brine ingredients, and I'm going to go over that. However, I've already put these brine ingredients in here so I can show you how to pack the jars. But the brine is 2 cups of white vinegar. Very simple. 2/3 of granulated sugar. It's 1 tablespoon of mustard seed. This is a very simple recipe, but I tell you, it is so good. My husband and I have been using these vegetables on salads just about every night. And they're just as fresh as can be. And then 1.5 teaspoon of celery seed. So this brine mixture will go on the stove. I'll give that to Kathleen. And I want to show you what I did about 30 minutes ago, because after you cook the brine, you bring it to a boil and simmer for 3 minutes. You pour it over the carrots in the bowl, which I did about 30 minutes ago. So now I'm ready to pack my jar with the carrots. So I'm going to dip into this mixture and I'm going to put it in the jar. And ever so often, I am going to use my little tamper to tamp the carrots down. I'm going to take this off. I don't really need it, but it's a handy little thing. I think Kathleen will be using the funnel later and you'll see how handy it is. Okay, so I'm continuing to put the carrots in the jar, tamping them down so they're nice and solidly in there. It smells so good. Now this recipe it takes a week or two to meld together in the refrigerator, but then it lasts for like 3 months. And not that it lasts around here for 3 months, because my husband and I really love salads. And we've been using them steadily on our salads. So, but this will last up to 3 months in the refrigerator. Okay, so I'm just about to the top of the jar. And the rest of the liquid, I think it ends up being pretty good. The liquid goes up to like 1/2 inch from the top of the jar. And remember those handy little lids that we've talked about, the plastic lids that do really well with these jars. That's what I'm going to put on top. Let me wipe this really quick. Here we go. Okay, I got it. Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to wipe the edges of the jar. Put the lid on. And it is ready for the refrigerator. And look how good this looks. All right, so Kathleen's going to demo a radish recipe. So I'm going to move a little bit and so she can get in here.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I am going to be demoing a sweet pickled radish. And I've got to tell you, it is amazing. I've been making this quite a bit lately. And again, it's one of those very quick recipes. And so you either bring your radishes out of your garden indoors. They can last, radishes will last in the fridge for 1 to 2 weeks fresh. And also do keep the radish tops, that you can use that in salads as well. They don't last very long in the refrigerator though. So this particular recipe is from freshpreserving.com and it's 2019. So why pickle? Radishes are Their pH is somewhere between 6.45 and 5.45 and 6.0. So they're considered a low acid food. And so you would not be able to preserve them in a boiling water bath or in a steam canner, because there would be a risk for Clostridium botulinum, which is a deadly bacteria. And we want to make sure that all our canning products are safe. So, and they also don't do well being frozen because of the high water content in them. But pickling, they are amazing. And many people use these. I'm going to bring my jar over. Thank you. On Mexican foods, tacos, in making nachos. I use them. I have a large number of Asian family members, and in Vietnamese dishes, and in there we go. Thank you. And in Korean food, it's just very delicious. I have already prepped everything for the sake of time. So here I have a jar. I chose a wide mouth because it's just easier to fill. And I am going to go ahead and fill part of this. And if you bring my liquid over as well. My brine was made from half a cup of white vinegar, half a cup of sugar, and a quarter cup of water, and it is already prepared in my pan. Also in there, there is a teaspoon of pickling salt, 1 teaspoon of mustard seeds, and I have those ingredients here, half a teaspoon of black pepper, and this is optional, but I added 1/2 teaspoon of dried red pepper just to give it a little kick. And they turn out very tasty. And 1 bay leaf. So I'm going to start off by filling my jar. And before I add much more, I'm going to put my bay leaf in. One I did last week, I didn't add it until the end, and you can really see it in the jar. And so I'm going to add more of my radishes. And this is just as simple as it gets. You make your brine. I used a mandolin to cut the radishes. I fill it basically to the top. Put a couple more in. Leaving a little bit, about a half an inch of headspace, just so that I can get my brine in and it covers. So here's, I love using this funnel. It fits on wide mouth as well as regular mouth jars. And now I'm just pouring my brine in. I'm just going to douse these down. You can see, because my brine has been on the stove since the beginning of this program, some of it has boiled away. So when I get this home, I will probably be adding a little bit more of the brine. But another interesting thing is that the interaction between the red edges of the radish and the brine fluid, the vinegar, is going to turn these into a lovely pink color. These pickles are very crisp and crunchy, definitely not waterlogged. You can use the mandolin to slice them very, very thin, or as you see here, mine are a little bit thicker. So I'm just wiping the top. Now, mind you, this is different than preserving. This is a refrigerated, not a preserved recipe. But you always wipe the top of your jars. With regular canning, you do that so that you ensure that you get a good seal. And once again, I have one of the plastic tops. I don't want to use metal with this recipe. So just use a plastic top. And within a very short period, this is going to start turning a beautiful pink color. And this looks so good in a salad. My son likes, well, he's Korean, and he loves something called bulgogi. And basically that's fire meat. It's made with beef. And this is great with it. So thank you very much. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you. Ooh, made me hungry. Oh boy. So I just wanted to go through, there's our master food preserver slide, and you can tell when these ladies were talking that we're trying to reduce food waste. It's a huge problem, and increase our food security, and have fun and have fabulous food that you either grow or buy yourself and process at home. So you know exactly what's in it. Okay, next slide. So here's some food preservation resources. We really want to make sure that you're having safe products. So you definitely want to not just pull stuff straight off of the internet. You want to make sure that you know where the recipes have been tested. All of these sites are great. So you can go through and it feels safe if you follow all the directions. And then we wanted to let you know that if you need help with food preservation, you have any questions, you're not sure, our Sonoma County Master Food Preservers are available remotely. So you can email us, you can give us a phone call, and you will get an answering machine and somebody will call you back. And we do have, there's a form online, and it's called Ask a Master Food Preserver. And if you go on our website, which I'll show you in just a minute, that form is available. So these are some resources that, everything goes right to YouTube, which is awesome. Thanks to our wonderful master gardener that does all that for you. And you will be getting a survey. I always forget to put the slide up, but you will be getting a follow-up survey that provides that, let us know how we did. So here is the QR code that will let you access the Master Food Preserver information. So the recipes and that type of thing. If you want those, capture that on your phone, or you can go to Sonoma County Master Food Preservers and hunt around and find it yourself. There's other great information there too, of course. And this is the one for the resources as far as master gardeners go. And you can always go through and, go on our website too. It's fun to just play around and see all the different things we have. Okay, thank you very much. And we will be answering questions. So,
Toby,
yes,
we have lots of good questions, and there they are.
Okay, I got them. All right, so let's see. Okay, let me go back to the beginning. We have great questions. So Bryce, here's a question. Do you line the baskets that you're planting in?
Yes, I lined it with black plastic.
And then how do you attach it in there? What do you do? Just lay it in and?
Oh, yeah, I usually cut down one side, so I had a little bit of a flat section.
Okay.
And then I cut some of it off because it was too much to deal with. And then I used my stapler to fill it up, but it would come over the edges, and I cut the edges off later.
Oh, great. Okay, that's great. And and master gardeners that I'm going to be asking questions of, you may want to go ahead and start your video now so that we can see you as you come up. I have done that the same thing with like the old crate, a trunk that had a tray that was in the top that was made out of wood. And I used that also, but I sanitized it and I put the black plastic. So you can be creative on this. Okay, let's see. So Bryce and Nancy, did you spray the half barrel with vinegar?
Yes, apple cider vinegar. Yeah.
Okay, apple cider vinegar, wonderful. Okay, let's
The
see.
little barrel we were planting in, because that was plastic and it was brand new. But the wine barrel that I've used
Oh.
before, yes, that's the one that Bryce was spraying with the apple cider vinegar.
Yes, that because it's porous. Yes,
Right.
it's a little demo barrel.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
awesome. And the soil mix that you used, Nancy, we have a question on that.
Well, it's a commercially available soil mix that was actually tested by the Sonoma County, Santa Clara County Master Gardeners. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say the brand or not, but it is organic and we found that it worked really well.
That's awesome. And I know that you can buy, soil in bags that doesn't say for containers. Is it important to say that it is a container product?
You definitely want a potting soil mix for containers. It's different than raised bed mix. It's definitely not native garden mix because you want to get the drainage, you want to get the nutrients. You're doing very concentrated gardening in a container, so you need concentrated nutrients for those plants.
Perfect. Thank you. Wonderful. Jude, let's see. A viewer says, I put oil in a used tuna can. The earwigs fall in and die. Is this safe?
Yes, yes, it is safe, and it is one of the recommended ways of trapping earwigs. The only thing that you have to remember is that if you have a can full of earwigs, the can needs to be emptied, and you have to replace the oil. Also, some in some of the recommendations it says to add a little bit of soy sauce, and somehow that it also attracts the earwigs. But that's a perfectly safe way of trapping earwigs. So go for it.
Perfect. That's great. Let's see. So this question, I'll answer this one. This person just moved to Petaluma, and any ideas of sources for good soil for raised beds that they're building? There's lots of sources. We can't recommend them. I would say that if you have a way to get the soil, if you just Google it online, there's several different places where you can go if you've got a trailer to pick it up, or they will deliver. So, and if you go through and look, lots of different sites, but we're not supposed to be telling you places to buy them. So, okay, Kitty, here's one for you. What's the best kind of cover to protect citrus trees from frost?
That would be frost protection. So frost blanket is great. Take it off during the warm afternoon.
That's great. And Kitty, does it matter if like some people have had trouble when it rains and they have the cover on, it gets really cold. So can you talk about that a little bit?
So frost cover on citrus, because citrus tends to be larger than most of the things you're covering up, frost cover is lighter than, say, any kind of sheet or which you can use, or blankets that you can use for frost cover. When it gets wet, it does get heavy. And in that case, you might want to have impromptu supports, like putting in stakes to hold the cover around your tree or bush and not on the actual branches.
Okay, that's good. And that's the trouble that a lot of folks have had, is, sticking to the things. So supporting that's wonderful. Okay, Bryce and Nancy, do you have any experience with containers that are called sub-reservoir? They're 2 to 3 feet high containers with a reservoir of water on the bottom. There's an input pipe that you use to fill the container bottom with water. And then she says there's a name of a company that sells them, and they claim a 5x4 container needs only 5 to 7 gallons of water in a growing season.
I have experience not with that particular type of container, but my earth boxes are basically the same type of thing. And you put a little water in every day till it starts to drip out the bottom. But one of the things that really holds the water in that one is it's almost like a shower cap. And you cut the appropriate number of holes for what you're planting, and you put your start in there, and then basically that shower cap really holds the water. There's very little evaporation. So if you want, I can take it over there and show you the romaine lettuce that's in there right now.
Okay. Yeah, anything we can do to conserve water this year, it's really important. We can go through and, and then also planting just what you think you're going to eat and grow, making sure that you have your irrigation on and that you're watching, that the weather. So if you don't need it, you can turn it off. Oh, there we go. So talk, Nancy, and yoga, and then they can see the speaker view. Okay, are you muted, Nancy? Okay.
No, I'm not muted, but I'm just having trouble seeing what you're seeing. So you can see that the romaine is growing in there.
Beautiful.
I've done arugula. I've actually done tomatoes in this also, cherry tomatoes.
Wow.
With basically vertical gardening with a tomato cage. And there,
Nice.
I don't know if you can see the little pipe?
I can see the black cover on it. So
Yeah. And you dig the little hole, or you cut the little holes. And I've reused the cover a few times. So yeah, it works. So I think the concept is valid. And I know a lot of master gardeners in my former life that did use this. So I would say, I don't know about a 5 foot by 4 foot one, but I know it really takes very little water.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great. The brine recipe will be posted online and it's Sonoma County Master Food Preservers. Okay, Sue and Kathleen, would the method of vary any if you were to use carrot sticks or something bigger than the shredded carrots that you did?
Nope. Same recipe. You can cut it any way, same brine. Yeah, you can cut it any way you want.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
When you can it, then everything has to be uniform, but the refrigerator is different. So.
Okay, perfect. And there was a question, will slides be sent to participants today for quick reference? No, we don't send them to you, but you will have, it will be posted on YouTube. If you just Google Veggie Happenings, March 2022, give us a little bit of time to get that done, maybe a day, and then it'll be right back up there for you. I know it's wonderful to be able to go back and do that. Okay, Kathleen and Sue, why are the plastic mason jar lids better than metal lids for pickling?
So you don't have the reaction between the metal and your brine. It could conceivably create a off taste in your product. The particular recipe that I was following actually said go ahead and do the 2-piece, normal lid and ring, or a plastic, but I didn't want to take a chance to have an off taste in the pickles.
That sounds good to me too. And when you go through and do a water bath can on the pickles, it pulls a vacuum, so you're not getting that connection between the brine and the metal until you go through and open it up. And then I always go through and change the lid and put the plastic lids on. I just think they're awesome.
Yes.
Definitely. Let's see. So Kitty, this is the last question. All my citrus trees turned yellow and the leaves fell. Does that mean that the frost got them? There's about 15 of them and all about 4 years old.
Oh, so sad, so sad. It depends. Could be overwatering, could be underwatering, could be a nutrient deficiency, or it could be frost. So the first thing that I would do is check the amount of moisture in the soil. The next thing that I would do is fertilize and see if you get a reaction of greening up of new growth. And I would, yeah, so sad. It could easily be the frost, but I would check everything else as well.
Right. Okay, that sounds great. And you can see why Kitty's like the first person I call when I have questions, because she just knows, it seems, everything. So thank you so much. I know we went over, we had a lot of super great questions, and we hope that you will join us next week when we have Denise DeRose, who will be speaking on how to choose the tomatoes that from different sales around Sonoma County that you would like to grow this year. And she is an absolute expert on tomatoes, and it should be a fabulous show. So that's,
Toby?
I said next week, next month. If you go in a day or two to YouTube and put in Veggie Happenings, Sonoma County Master Gardeners, March 2022, it'll come right up. So, or you can go to our Master Gardener Sonoma County website, or you can go to the UC Master Gardener, Master Food Preserver website. All of that will have the information right there for you. Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you next month.